July 2023 video horoscopes for the 12 signs with me, Lada, from Astrolada.com. I'm so excited. July, we have some of the most karmic configuration in the sky. Pluto, which is considered the planet that governs the evolution of the soul and the evolutionary path, and the most karmic and fatal and fated events will square the karmic nodes, which are considered the north node is the true north of the soul, the new karma soul has to create. The south node is the past karma soul has to create. So some very pivotal fated karmic events will happen, like the universe is no longer waiting for you to make up your mind. It's giving you consequences of your actions and is realigning you to the path that is most appropriate for your soul, whether you're ready or no. So some events that I'll say for each sign what these events will be will trigger a specific big consciousness shift and realigning of your karmic direction and the karmic path in life for your soul during the next month, July and into August. And we'll speak what events this can be for each one of you. But something pivotal, very important, is happening, guys. And Venus is turning retrograde, but helping this process with a trine. So I'm very excited for this month. And before I start, Nikola Stojanovic, my past teacher, the late Nikola Stojanovic, his books are still not out. His daughter is trying to publish them. He's the most genius astrologist who ever lived. But we're releasing all his courses, 9 courses, for a discounted price, or you can choose just 3 of his courses in a package and get them. This is part of my Lada's Top Picks that continues the whole till October 2023, where I recommend you the best astrology courses and the themes. And Nikola Stojanovic is for everything. I mean, if you want to do astrology like a magician, like a psychic almost, check out those courses. I cannot recommend them enough. And of course, I do Q&A live once per month for each group till October. If you have questions for every new package of course, I recommend. So thank you. Let's begin July. Taurus, Sun, Moon, Rising, July 2023. Taurus, the first big event is that one of the disruptors, the North Node, is moving out of your sign. Actually, Taurus have been having it quite rough for a few years now, already from 2017, when Uranus entered your sign, guys. Because Taurus is such a peaceful sign, it just wants to be left alone, to graze in the green pastures, to have its routines in its life and its peace. But the planet said, no, it's time to shake up all your life for the last few years. And Uranus will still stay in your sign till 2026. But one of the other disruptors, the North Node, which has been in your sign for the last year and a half, causing eclipses in Taurus, is moving out. And there'll be no longer eclipses in your sign or big shakeups anyway, because the North Node is the one that creates the sudden changes in life. So it can be sudden deaths, births, marriages, divorces, sudden rise in life, sudden sometimes fall. I mean, usually it gives a lot of things, and it increases the ambition of a person. It can suddenly give a big rise. And I witnessed a couple of my Taurus friends, Taurus Sun, that had a big jump in their life from a normal position to very high position. Usually the North Node allowed you to skip a few steps, but also makes the life quite intense with changes, ups and downs, unpredictable shake-ups. It's a bit of a spins you a lot, this North Node energy. And it's moving out of your sign in July. Congratulations. It's not going to be in your sign again for 18 years. So whatever big changes happen, I'm not saying there are no more big changes for Tauruses, but one notch less, because no more eclipses there. Just Uranus remains for the last 10 degrees of Taurus, those that are born basically in the last 10 degrees, from 20 to 30 degrees, from around 10th to the 20th, or 21st to the 21st of May till the 21st. No, not May, but from around the 10th to around the 21st of May, something like that. They still gonna have Uranus transit that will still change them, but no longer the North Node, which really makes things crazy. So the North Node is moving this month towards the middle into your 12th house, while the south node, which is always opposite, is an axis, a karmic axis, will move Tauruses into your 6th house. So the pressure moves away from you. Still, there is some lessons that you have to learn over the next karmic lessons, over the next 1.5 years. And the south node, the north node in your 12th house can incline you to feel more introverted, more introspective, or even to withdraw more, or even to get very passionate about spirituality, meditation. 12th house is all of those activities for the souls, and the north node is this energy of passion, desire, insatiability, jumping all in to explore certain side of life, and that will be this more mystical side of life, more withdrawn, or maybe where you spend hours reading or diving into Netflix, or some kind of escapism tendency. Unfortunately, this can increase tendencies to escape through addictions of any sort, and that can raise these issues for you for 1.5 years, hopefully to be addressed, hopefully to be changed, and not just to be increased like you know, insatiably, any kind of addictions or behaviors that we call hidden vices that we'll do privately and not directly in front of others. The north node can definitely increase those, but can also definitely increase your desire to overcome those as well. And there is a big chance this month, because Pluto will also square the nodes in your 6th and 12th house. So this axis, the 6th and 12th house, deals with difficult things, whether it's addictions, whether it's our inner hidden demons, whether it's anything that traps us subconsciously tied to the past, or that traps us, that we're kind of like stumbling stone for us, that we trip ourselves on, that we self-sabotage ourselves through. Well, such themes can become very prevalent, and it's almost like it's their karmic time to be solved, because the 3 most karmic points, south node, north node, and Pluto, the planet of the soul's evolution, are making an exact square. And Pluto shows a skip step that will be corrected in your karmic development. The skip step comes in from the 9th house. Something will click, and it can happen through some crisis, like some sudden shift in your consciousness, because both the 12th, the 9th, and the 6th houses are houses of perception and consciousness. Something, even in the way of crisis for some of you, or not, can like a huge shift in change in thinking, in your belief system, in how you perceive reality. It's as if till now you're just looking at separate threads, and you're trying to make sense of something, keep doing things over and over the same way, and suddenly now your perspective shifts, because the 9th house Pluto skip step can give like a very big change of how you see reality. So it's suddenly you're like whoop, pulled out of this, you know, looking at those different threads, and suddenly you see it's a tapestry, or it's a puzzle, and it has sense, and you see why the different threads, what they meant together. So it's like a huge shift in your consciousness, that this powerful karmic square between the nodes and Pluto can happen. This is very rare aspect, and that's what some of the most crisis prone, critical, but at the same time very important for your karmic development events can happen. And for you, it's something in your consciousness shifts, in your belief system shifts, even in your circumstances can be where you are situated and living, because the 9th house can be something to do with not only your belief systems, but traveling as well. And that can shift, that can exactly directly release karma and change karma connected to self-sabotaging behaviors, to hidden vices, to inclinations to spending too much, or inclinations to self-medicating 6th house. It can even, this change of consciousness and beliefs and perception, this Pluto skip step that can happen in July, can create a big shift in some chronic health condition of yours, or some health condition that has been bugging you for a while, because the south node in the 6th means something from the past. 6th house is health issues. Pluto there triggers total crisis, total change in that direction through a change in your belief system. So you might meet a teacher, you might read something, or you might have like a spiritual mystical experience for some of you even, or just some shift and eureka moment of realizing something, just things aligning. Maybe it's something you read before, maybe it's a book that you had already, maybe it's a course you've taken before, but now you listen to a couple of lectures or whatever, or it just clicks in your mind, the skip step belief system that shifts your consciousness and allow some big change and release to happen in regards to this 12th house. So anything that we're imprisoned by ourselves, or actual imprisoning and limiting external conditions. This can be the change of a situation actually connected to being imprisoned, like baby jails. You can't leave home because of a baby, or actual prison, or imprisonment is also a kind of addiction, or some kind of a health issue that some of you might have been dealing with, that there can be some karmic important development here, and even a crisis. So I have to warn, for some of you, there can be some intense health situation that happens that triggers you either to change your beliefs in some big way, your worldview, to change your health habits, and to release, because the South Node that is moving to your 6th house over the next 12 months will ask you release unhealthy habits. Say release, some of you might be eating too much dairy, or too much, you might be eating something that is you're allergic to, that you can't cope with, meat or whatever. Every person has something. You might be asked to release certain unhealthy habits. You know, can be whatever, you know, it might be sitting like that, slouching. So instead learning to, and so on, to walk more straight. Another way though, this, when the axis changes, is that there is a huge focus for some of you. Maybe you might be drawn to going to retreats when the North Node is in the 12th house. This is a good thing. I had a friend who is born with the North Node in the 12th house, and she discovered going to retreats, and she loves it. Every 2 months she spends enough money to go to a faraway country. It's also the travel to a foreign place. The North Node transiting your 12th house can give you the green light to visit foreign countries, to relocate to foreign countries. When my partner had North Node transiting his 12th house from Ascendant, that's the first time he ever left the States. And he really, he visited, suddenly from never having visited one country, visited around 10 countries within a month. So you see, the North Node always gives you a lot suddenly. So it can give you a green light, for example, to relocate to a foreign place, to change environment. It can give you a green light to travel, this North Node. Suddenly throw in situation of, you know, very different cultures that you explore. It can throw you into spirituality, investigating spirituality, studying mystical things. When I had this transit, I was so deep into astrology. I was constantly like, and I had some of the most powerful psychic reading that someone made for me that was wow. So such kind of experiences can start abounding over the next 18 months or be more of interest to you. Any kind of spiritual, or 12 houses psychological, or exploring past lifetimes, exploring regression, exploring astrology, learning about the mysteries, the invisible worlds. A lot of downloads. Even if you're not someone who loves astrology or mystical things, it can be just having spontaneous spiritual experiences, reconnecting to Jesus or whatever. Something that suddenly shifts their spirituality, like from occultism to Christ, or from Christ to occultism, you know, something that's a bit shocking to others. That can happen, that can shift you from one belief system to another belief system, because Pluto in the 9th of beliefs is involved. The North Node in another house of beliefs and spirituality is involved. So for some of you, as I said, even spiritual shifts and changes of perception to reality, and perceptions of some mystical experiences likely. Well, the North Node is in the 12th house, green light to travel, green light to study deep research. Deep research, so if you're doing a PhD or if you're studying something in depth, you get buried and study and have revelations. The 12th house is the house of deep understanding, and the North Node there really speeds up this ability, this hunger for deep understanding. Of course, the North Node can commercialize things. So if you are someone who is in spiritual careers over the next 18 months, or if you're a psychologist, or if you're dealing with anything to do with foreigners, anything to do with traveling abroad, anything to do with import export to foreign places, which is again 12th house connected, investments in foreign countries. If you're dealing with, if you're a healer or work in a hospital or prison, or anyone who is artist of any sort, so but who has to, say, a painter, a music composer. This is all 12th house careers. These are all 12th house activities. The North Node can really allow you to have breakthrough in such career spheres, like an artist, like a musician, or to be more passionate and download a lot more, pieces of creativity and art, because the nodes, they open doors to other dimensions, and the 12th house is already connection to another dimension. And some people that really download information like crazy have the nodes, and they have natural psychic abilities, the nodes in the 12th. So some of you, this is what can happen. For example, Nikola Tesla has the node in the 12th house, the North Node, so he could see things that were in his mind like actual images. So really the psychic abilities and the abilities to visualize, they were extremely enhanced when the North Node is in the 12th house. My friend who has the North Node there, when by birth, when the nodes were transiting there, she started having, during meditations, her first mystical experiences, and truly see, kind of proper mystical things. Anyway, what else can happen when the South Node? We talked a lot about the North Node in the 12th house over the next 18 months. Now let's talk about the South Node in the 6th house. As I said, sometimes it can bring some old illnesses to deal with that they haven't been dealt with. I don't know, have you had some, maybe when you were younger, you had a certain predisposition to, I don't know, certain illness. I cannot tell specifically what it is, but this North Node can, or there might be food disorders or whatever, but some imbalance from the past can be returned into your life to release it fully, to deal with it from the next level of consciousness now, and hopefully release it. On the positive level, South Node through the 6th house helps you release self-medicating habits. You can, South Node is let go, so you can stop, for example, being dependent on antidepressants, or you might stop being dependent over the next year and a half on some other medications that you're keeping, that they're trying to keep your health through it. That's some of the good things. Or it can even release you, that South Node is liberation, moksha, from some illness or health condition. Again, on another good level, 6th house is death, not death, to die, death, when you owe something. Well, the South Node there can help you get rid of a debt. So that's one good thing, to no longer have a debt about something. So again, hopefully. I remember when my partner had that, we were able to pay off his debt, his school debt, his university debt within that year. So that's one way also it can play out. Also, though, it can mean that you lose a bit of interest with the South Node in the 6th house towards duties, responsibilities, daily mundane affairs, because you're much more drawn and excited by the mystical, the otherworldly, the foreign, the exotic, something far away, rather than the mundane, the chores, the duties at work. So you might kind of slack off a bit at work. Some people, when the South Node transit their 6th house, even stop working. Again, someone just had this transit, and that I've watched, and she stopped working. She says, like, well, she had the ability, Instead, she was going to a lot of retreats instead of working for a year almost. Said, I need some time for spiritual development. So if you can do that, that can be a good time when the South Node is in the 6th house. On that level, you don't need to lose your job once the South Node is there. You might lose interest a bit in it, or it can still be happening because the South Node doesn't block something or make it impossible. It gives no resistance to it, but it also gives no excitement about it. So you can feel a bit like blasé about your worldly responsibilities and duties, even sometimes neglect some of them, but because it's time to look deeper into the soul, this 12th house, into the mysteries, into the unexplored. Well, while this crisis might be happening here, this month in particular, Pluto triggering the nodes in Aries and your 6th house, that we talked about at the beginning, something is helping though, and that's Venus, which is helping the North Node and the South Node by trine and sextile. The whole month Venus is holding trine and sextile with the nodes from Leo. So what is helping if there is any crisis? Because I believe I'll see a lot of people on the verge, like on a crossroad this month, because of the square between the karmic nodes and the most karmic planet, Pluto. There's some karmic situation that has to be resolved. I try to direct you where it might happen through the houses, but I can never guarantee. Your personal horoscope always will show much more properly. Well, if there is some crisis, something critical, something karmic happening in your life, that you feel on a crossroad, that your life is changing in some big way, Venus is helping. And Venus is you guys, because Venus rules you as a Taurus. So you might find yourself that you make some right decisions. Of course, Venus is in your 4th house. Family might help you. Close people that you love. If you have pets, they might be the rock that stabilizes you this month. And the psychological, emotional nurturing, some good food, as Venus always is, some comfort as well. And Venus is turning retrograde on the 22nd, 23rd in your 4th house. So it means Venus becomes even stronger. When it's retrograde, it's twice as close to Earth than when it's direct. Venus will be retrograde the whole like 10 days almost in July and the whole August. So some of you when it's retrograde might reconnect with family you haven't seen for a while. You might get in touch or revisit your country of origin or birth, or go visit some places that you used to live in and you consider close. Or if you might change your mind about where you want to live and see things from a different perspective, or you might even reconcile with parents and family members. You might revisit and spend good times while Venus is retrograde with loved ones in a protected environment. You might redo your house. Many times I've seen when Venus retrogrades in someone's 4th house, they might decide to do a home makeover. And other astrologer will tell you, no, never in Venus retrograde. When else? Retrograde planet means different perspective. When you start seeing something a bit differently. So it's like, okay, I will change something here. And it might take you a couple of months till Venus is retrograde. Then it starts moving direct. You'll see the results of it. Home makeover and so on. Why not? Sometimes, though, if there are unsaid things and if there's unfairness in the home, in the family, if there are unsaid things and undealt with emotions, feelings,